Okay, so I'm Alexandra Spalato. I'm a developer relation engineer at Storyblock. I'm French, as you can hear by my accent, and I'm half Spanish, and I live in Madrid. And I'm super happy to be here in Porto. I already come once, and I really love this city. And let me tell you a fun story. In another life, I wanted to be an actress. So being here on stage, for me, I'm coming back to the roots. A little bit like Remix, which is embracing web standards, so the roots of the web to redefine modern web development. So who of you has already used Remix? Okay, who wants to use it, to learn it? Okay. And who has never heard of it? Who? Okay. So, first, let's dive into the evolution of web development. Web development is all about transforming data into HTML and delivering it to the browser for rendering. But let's take a trip down memory lane. You remember when the web was all about server-side rendering? You'd make a request to the server, the page would be rendered using a templating language and sent back to the browser So JavaScript was like the cherry on top, just used sparingly to add a dash of interactivity. But then, like a plot twist in a movie, JavaScript frameworks like React, Svelte, Angular, Vue, and meta frameworks like Next, Gatsby, and more came into the scene. And with them, the concept of universal JavaScript was born. This is like the superhero version of JavaScript. It can run on the server and on the client. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. The challenges we face in modern web development. Scalability. Your app needs always to handle more users, more data, more complexity without crashing. New frameworks are popping up every week. It's like a fashion trend, so keeping up with the latest and the greatest can be exhausting and time-consuming. Performance. Nobody likes a slow website. Browser compatibility. Your apps need to work seamlessly across all browsers. UI and UX. This is all about the user. Developer experience. This is about us, developers. We want our app to be powerful, but also to be intuitive and enjoyable to use. Security. We need to protect our users' data. Okay, don't worry. I'm not here to talk only about problems. I'm here to talk about solutions. And this is where Remix comes in. So what's Remix all about? Imagine that React and the server-rendered framework had a baby. That's Remix. It's got the scalability of a chameleon. It can handle complex application, but it can also scale down to the point where you don't even need JavaScript on the page. And the best part, it's built on web standards. So it's like speaking the browser's native language. It has a server-client model, so it can filter the data from the server and only deliver to the client the data that is needed. And so this will enhance your app's speed and scalability. It's built on web standards. So it's like having a universal adapter working seamlessly across different browsers. JavaScript, it's here for user experience. It's like the icing on the cake. It enhances the user experience, but the app still works great even without it. It avoids over abstractions. So learning a new framework can sometimes feel like learning a new language to find that's only spoken on a tiny island. So with Remix, you're learning the language of the web, not just a single framework. So as you get better at Remix, you're actually becoming a better web developer. And also by sticking to web standards and best practices, it helps keeping things secure. So let's dive into how Remix streamlines our development process with web standards. First off, Remix loves URLs. URLs are the backbone of the web, the address of every little piece of content on the internet. Remix embraces this and uses URLs to manage routing and data loading. Next up, we have the Fetch API. This is your tool for data handling. And now let's talk about HTML. It's the language of the web. It's been around since the dawn of internet. Remix uses HTML to its full potential. And last but not least, we have HTTP caching. By leveraging the browser's built-in caching mechanisms, Remix can drastically improve the performance of your web application. So let's talk about URLs. In Remix, they're kind of a big deal. They're not just addresses. They're the backbone of your web architecture. Imagine a URL as a path, and each segment of that path corresponds to a nested layout in your UI. In Remix, you can collocate your UI and data handling code in the same file. We're talking about full-stack components. Remix also optimizes your client-side navigation. It knows which layouts will persist between two URLs, so it only fetches the data of the ones that are changing. And on top of it, Remix can prefetch all resources for a page when the user is about to click a link. So next time you look at a URL, remember, in Remix, it's not just an address. It's a powerful tool that shapes your web architecture, optimizes your navigation, and streamlines your development process. So now let's dive into the Fetch API in Remix. It's like your personal postman, delivering data from the web to your app. It manages request and responses objects, your outgoing and incoming data messages. And we also have headers, which are similar to the address on an envelope. They carry additional information about the request or response, like the destination or the type of data being sent. The fetch method takes your request, delivers your response, and can be called from anywhere in your app. Loader functions in Remix are functions that fetch data from the server for your components, and they're the backbone of your app's data flow. And Remix adds request, response, headers, and fetch to your loader's global context. This means you can use them anywhere in your app, just like you would in the browser. And lastly, we also have helper methods like JSON and redirect that streamlines working with the Fetch API. So with the Fetch API in Remix, handling data is as easy as sending a letter. So now let's dive into data writes or mutations in Remix. The magic here is based on two basic web stuff, HTML forms and HTTP. Again, Remix is taking us to the basics, but with a modern twist. When we talk about creating, deleting, or updating data on our website, we're really talking about form submission. And this is not only for your big complex form like your user profile edit page. Even the little likes buttons are form in disguise. And then we have the Remix form components, and it adds some special feature to the usual HTML form. After a form submission, all the loaders on the page are automatically refreshed, showing the user the latest info without needing to refresh the page manually. Also, with form, your page doesn't reload after a form submission, providing a smoother user experience. Then we can also use hooks like use navigation that give us access to the pending form state, so we can build a user experience as smooth as butter. Think about loading indicators, optimistic UI, and all this good stuff. So in Remix, action function looks after a form submission, while loader function take care of getting data. HTTP caching is a powerful feature that can really improve the performance of your web application. It's like giving a memory to your app. Instead of constantly asking the server for data, your app can remember some of it, reducing the load on your server and speeding up response times for your users. And in Remix, HTTP caching is used to its full potential. But what about updates? Well, HTTP caching in Remix is smart. It knows when to update the data. And this is where cache control comes in. You can define cache control headers right in your root modules. For example, you can set max age 300 to tell the browser to keep the cached data for 300 seconds. So, with HTTP caching, your web app becomes faster, your server gets less stress, and your user stays happy. It's a win-win-win situation. In this example, the headers function is exporting an object with a cache control property. The value of this property is a string that tells the browser how to cache the response. The max age directive specifies the maximum amount of time in seconds that the fetched response is allowed to be cached. In this case, it's set to 300 seconds or 5 minutes. So this code is essentially telling the browser, hey, you can store this response and use it up for 5 minutes without checking back with the server. And guess what? You can find many other directives in MDN docs because, again, this is a web standard. Okay, so now it's time to dive in a coding example. I don't know about you, but for me, building a global search form has always been super tedious. Who loves building global search forms? Okay, nobody, so I'm not the only one. Great. And so what happens is when I learned Remix, I found it so easy that I write a tutorial about it, so you can scan this QR code and you will have the tutorial and the repo and and everything you need to rebuild it, so please scan this. And I drink water while you're scanning. By the way, my talk will not be 50 minutes, more 30 maximum, so you will have time to ask questions at the end. Or while I'm talking, also you can ask questions. I like interactivity. Okay, so this is the small website I built for this occasion. So we have here a page and a blog with some posts, single post, and we have this search, which is including a model. And now if I type my query here, I'm redirected to a search result route, and I can see the query is attached to the URL, and it displays the results by pages and posts. And this is how it's built. I'm using Storyblock, my favorite headless CMS, and here I have my page, and I have a body field, so I will need to search my query within this body field, and I have the blog post here. And so in this blog post, I see I have a headline, an image, and a text field. So basically, I will need to search if my query is present in the body for the page, or in the text, or in the headline fields. Okay, so let's look at the code for this. So I have here my repo. So I have a search form component here. So here I have the form, which is inside a model which is built with headless UI. Okay, and I have this overlay. So if we have a slow network, it will display the word searching while it's searching here. And I have created here a state to open and close my my model, and a state to open and close my overlay that I retrieve here. Okay, so if here my navigation state, so I use, yes, and then I have a search result route here to get the query from the URL and display the result. So okay, let's explain that more in detail. So in my search form, first I'm using the form component. And here if I read, I see that it behaves like a normal form, except that the interaction with the server is with fetch instead of a new document request. So this is why my form submission is not reloading the page. Okay, it says it behaves like a normal form. But who of you remember how a normal form works? Okay, 3 people. So I can say you something that I'm going to show you, not me. I didn't know it when I built that. So I show you how I built that. So I had a method post, and then I have, okay, my query. And then I make an action function in my root file. So the root file is the parent root of all the roots in Remix. So I want to process my form in this root file. And so here, where is my action? Okay, I have here my action function. So from my action, I have here my request, and I get my form data from the request, and from there I get the query, and I use a redirect helper to redirect to the search result page and attach the query to my URL. So for the ones who knows really well, remember how a form works, am I doing right here? Am I doing the best way? So everybody agrees that is right. Okay, so nobody knows how a form works, like me. So in reality, a form by default has a get method. And we don't need this post. We just need an action attribute. So I'm going to change that. And in this action attribute, I will add the route where I want my form to be processed. So it's the search results route. And what the form will do by itself. So basically, I was doing by code, by hand, what the form is doing naturally. So naturally, it's going to process in the search result route, and it will attach the query to the root. So I don't need an action, I don't need a method post, I don't need all that. The form is doing it by itself. So we have all forget what a form is doing, because we never use it in React. Let's see if it works, if I have not made some bugs. Okay, so, okay, everything works. And yes, I have not commented the action in the root file, but I don't need it anymore. Okay, let's continue. So now, yes, I'm using this hook, use navigation, and here I'm instantiating it in const navigation equal use navigation, and then I use effect. So if the navigation state, so the navigation state can be submitting, idle, or loading. So if it's not idle, it means that my form is submitting. I want to open the overlay that displays the word searching. And if not, I want to close it. And if the navigation state is loading, I want to open the model. So let's see that in action in a slow network. So I'm going to simulate a slow network. Here, so okay, slow 3G. Oops. Okay, so, and let's see what happened in the console, because I have console log my navigation state. So I open the model and see that my navigation state is idle, nothing is happening, so the overlay searching is not displaying. I type my query, I enter, so I see it's loading, I see the word searching. Okay, I think I have a problem, because now I see the overlay is not closing and my results are showing. So something is going wrong, and it seems that my state is not coming back to idle. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. Anybody knows what? Okay, so this is how I was building it first, and I was feeling that something was wrong, because it was working, but when I was this slow network, it was not working. And first time I gave this talk, it was at React Rally in Salt Lake City. And fortunately, the day before, I crossed Ryan Florence, the creator of Remix, and he said to me, "Oh, you are using the state too much here for the overlay." So I'm duplicating the state because of my React instinct, because of React, we want to put everything in a state. So I'm putting this open overlay, set open overlay here, and then in my search form, I'm using this use effect to with the state. So that was wrong. So now I'm going to show you the right way, and it's much simpler. So with that, I can show you that we are always overcomplicated thing, because we are used to React and we don't use the platform. So the right code is here. No, wait, I have to. Okay. So here, what I do, I use navigation here in my index, and I instantiate it here. And then I create a constant is searching, so if my navigation state is not idle and my navigation location path name is search results, so if we are in the search result route, then is searching. So if it's searching, I display my overlay. So very simple. No need to put my overlay to open and close inside the state again, because we have it with the use navigation. And in my search form, I just have my form, and that's all. So this is, for me, was a big lesson, as even if I wanted to show how seamless it is with the web standards, I was still complicating things because of my React instinct. Okay, so now we have everything working, and we have our query here in our URL, so we need to extract it. So let's back to the slides now. Okay. So Okay, so now we need to get the query from the URL, and then we need to filter the result with this query. And for that, we will use the Storyblock Content Delivery API, which is the API from Storyblock. So, first, we extract the query from the URL, and for that, we use the URL constructor, which is again a web standard, to create an object representing the URL defined by the parameters. And this object includes search param property, which provide utility methods to work with the query string of the URL. So from there, we get our query. And now we need to fetch the stories. So the stories and Storyblock is all the content, the posts, and the page with get Storyblock API method, which is from the React SDK from Storyblock. And from there, so all that, it's in our loader. So the functions that get the data from the server in Remix in the search results route. So here we return our story. So here we have all the story, all the pages, and all the posts, but for the moment they are not filtered with the query. So for that, we are going to use the filter query parameter to filter the story by a specific attribute. And here we are going to use the like operation to check if a custom attribute has a value that is similar to our query. And so we need to search in the body, the headline, and text. So remember, the body was the field for the page, and headline and text for the post. We need to check if this field contains the query, and we put the 2 asterisks because we need all the fields that contains this query. Then by default, the filters we apply are connected by an AND operator, but in this case, we want to use the OR operator. So for that, we use the -- OR keyword. And so here we have all the code for our loader. So we pass the filter parameter to our request, and then here we return the filtered stories filtered by our query. And so finally, we have our filtered story from Storyblock, so it's time to display them. So here we are going to use loader data, which is the hook in Remix to get the data from the server. So all that is in the search result route. So we have the loader that gets the data from the server, and then we retrieve it in the component with use loader data. So we get our stories filtered by the query, and now we want to filter to separate the post and the page. So we just need to filter by component for pages and posts, and then we have all the data to display. And voila, we have our global search working. So I hope that you agree with me that is much simpler than with Next or whatever of the React framework. Okay. So wrapping up, we've seen how using web standards in Remix makes building a global search a breeze. But it's not just about making our lives as developers easier, but also about delivering a top-notch user experience. So with server-side filtering, HTTP caching, and all this good stuff, we are making our app faster and more efficient. JavaScript is here to enhance the user experience. And the best part, we're doing all this while sticking to web standards, ensuring our app is robust and future-proof. So it's a win-win situation for both developers and users. So thank you, and now it's time to ask questions. If you want, we still have a lot of time. And also Storyblock organized a raffle to win an Egghead subscription. So you can participate by scanning this QR code and filling the form. So go for it. Oops, if you want to scan the QR code, I'll let it a moment. And please ask questions. We have time, so I'm here for that. Yes, there is document. Yes, you have everything in the doc is very well done. The example app that you can build in the doc, I learned from there, and I'm more a video learner, so it's really well done, and you have everything about error boundary. You have also the new course from Kenzie Dodd's Epic Web, which is used React.
Yes.
And what? It's really good, and I have it because I'm doing the interview for a content management system, so I'm speaking on it. And I begin it, it's really, even learning what I know already goes really deep, so it's really good, yeah. If you can buy it, do it.
Can I use the loader function in a inner component?
Can you speak?
Sorry. Can I use the loader function in an inner component in the React? Because I only use Remix for a simple application, and I have some kind of questions about how I will use Remix to replace React query to handle with tables and caching tables and pagination tables. So I'm questioning if can I use the loader function side table component, for example, and not only in the page components, because I can see the loader function just like the get server side props, just like Next, you know?
I have not understood everything. So all Remix is server side. There is no static side generation. You add the loaders in the root, and then all the components that are a child of this root, you can get the data with use loader data. So if you have a component that is a child of a root, you can get this data. And then you have also hooks like use matches, and it match all the parent roots. And there is also, I learned that in Epic Web, really nice,
so if I want to paginate a table, I have to push to the route, for example, to get the page 2 in my API?
Pagination has always been one of my pet peeves, to be honest. I hate pagination. I know I have worked with Hydrogen too. Hydrogen is built on Remix, and they have built a special component for pagination. I learned Remix because of Hydrogen. And but yes, I think if you went, but we don't use React query and things like that because we don't need it. It's
you guys have your own.
You work with the server directly,
approach,
so
right?
it's not necessary here. Okay. But I have not tried the form, table components and all that from the same guy. But yes, an interesting thing that I discovered the other day is that it's a CLI from Remix, npx Remix roots, and it's going to show. Yes, it shows all the roots. So we have here the root file, which is parent, and all these are child roots. And if there was nested root, you can see it. So you can see where are your roots organized, etc. So this I learned that in Epic Web the other day. So.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a recommendation to your talk that I think the thing that I most like, a recommendation to you add in your talk. I think the thing that I most like in Remix, it's about the API routes. That can I create some routes that does not render a component in Remix and just receive data for.
Yes, that's a resource route.
Yeah, resource route.
Yes, if you don't have but there is. One thing I really like of Remix, there is so much things and they are different that you can make a lot of talks about Remix.
Yeah, but to be honest, I think that's the best feature in Remix. It's that kind of route because that feature helped me to receive data from other application, receiving a resource route, inserting a Prisma database, and I avoid to had backend middleware, you know. So
Okay.
I think that's
yes,
awesome.
yes, you can.
Awesome.
Yes. So that can be an idea for a future talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Or to build an example. So. Thank you. And thanks for the questions.